Hi, everybody. How are you doing today? This is pre-recorded. I recorded it yesterday because hopefully, as you're watching this on Wednesday, I'm having new floors installed in half of my house. The other half happens in 7 days or 8 days, 9 days, something like that. So, but I wanted to make sure that I had some time with you because I've been preparing for this day, and that has meant painting the living room so that I could install new shelves, so I wouldn't have floor units anymore. So I've been installing shelves, and excuse me, and now the floors are being installed, and that will be the capstone. I know it's the foundation; it's not at the roof, but that will be the capstone on the work for that room for right now. This part in the house, our house's life. It's really kind of neat because it's kind of the 100th anniversary. Somewhere in these next 3 or 4 years is the 100th anniversary of this house, and so I feel really good about pumping this money, time, and energy into helping her to smile. I feel the house is smiling. But as I've been working, excuse me, I've been thinking a lot about kind of how painting is parallels my spiritual life. And I think all of ours in one way or another. You kind of start off, you're deciding that there's some sort of change that's happening or that's needed. And so then you look around, you do some studying, you do some thinking, reflecting. Maybe you're looking at colors next to each other to see what you might like, what seems to fit, but would be a little different, so you get a fresh take on things, and then you pick out what you're going to do. That can take a long time, especially in terms of the spirit, to kind of look at what you have, what doesn't seem to be as fulfilling, maybe, or what needs a little sprucing up, and then you figure out how you want to spruce it up. And there's no right or wrong for the time limit, the length of time that it takes to do that part. And then you get down to the hard work, right? And that includes kind of scraping off the old stuff that doesn't fit anymore, letting go of those beliefs, or those statements at least, or the way we worded some of our beliefs, that they just don't work anymore. And so you sort of scrape all of that off, and you're preparing the way. You're scraping, maybe you're sanding if it's a fine distinction between what you used to believe and what you're moving into. You sort of scrape that away, and you make it smooth so that it can receive something new. And sometimes you have to put a primer on. And primers are good because they help to seal out what was there, and they give you something to adhere the new thing to. Frankly, in terms of painting, you don't always need a primer. And as my paint guy explained to me the other day, what I knew, but he reaffirmed what I knew, that the clay that's in the paint, when you buy the better quality paint, often you don't need a primer because it covers better. It has kind of some have primers built in, but as he says, that's really just a marketing gimmick. He said, really, what you want is just a really good quality paint. And so I paid more for a gallon of paint than I'd ever paid before in my life. It was like $70 for a gallon of paint. But you know what? I did the whole room in 1 gallon. I couldn't believe it. There were only a couple spots I had to do a second coat on. And I was covering a fairly golden yellow with a light green. So you would think that maybe the yellow would show through a lot. No, so there's a little DIY tip for you. But in terms of our spirituality, sometimes you need a primer. Sometimes you need something that can give you a starting place to cover over. It's like if you truly believed in one belief system, let's say a more fundamentalist belief system, and you were taught that certain things were wrong, and then you feel that that's not speaking to you anymore, you might need to do a lot of research, which I think of as the scraping and the sanding and the priming. You're priming yourself to be willing. You're praying for discernment It would be kind of like the primer. You're preparing yourself to receive something new, and then you put the paint on, and you go to what you believe, what the new system is that you are accumulating, and sometimes you have to do them in more than one layer, second coat or a third coat, and then at the very end, you want to take one of those little paint brushes like you'd use for paint by numbers, one of those little paint brushes, and go around and do the fine detail work that didn't work, that it was too fine for what you were trying to do with a big brush or with one of those pads or with a roller. So you go around and you do the fine detail work. And to me, as I was doing that over the last couple of weeks, I'm thinking, boy, this is really like spiritual development here, where things get scraped off, things get primed, you prepare the new space, you try the new space, and sometimes you put on some paint and it's not the shade that you want, and you end up painting over it, and that's okay. Actually, that did happen in the living room. I thought I was going to really, really like this kind of light gray to go over the gold. It looked, even though it wasn't a flat paint, it was an eggshell, but it looked really flat. It didn't look warm. It wasn't inviting. I said, no, that can't work. And then I got this idea for this green. Oh boy, it just came alive. And of course, there are plaster walls in this house. Not drywall in most of the rooms because it's so old. And so you have that sort of uneven texture of the wall. So everything is going to look a little different depending on the shade. So you might have to try a belief system and say, I'm going to wear that or try it on for a while. It's not what I thought it was going to be. That is not quite what I believe yet. And so you go back and you try something else, and that's okay. You have to find the things that are right for you at this time in your life. This gold that I painted like 10 years ago when I moved in, it was great. I had done a lot of research. I found out that houses at this time in the 1920s, working class homes, were generally used 5 different colors, black, white, and gray, and then yellow and red. And those are the colors that I used then throughout certain parts of the house. And I'm ready to move beyond that now and into something that is a little more me and where I am now. And as I think about perhaps retiring here in this space, what I would like the space to look like then. Also added more shelves. Ready? Added shelves getting into the vertical storage. So, and there's a lot of change going on, not just the floors. And that's the way I think it is with our spiritual lives too. So I invite you to be thinking about your own spiritual life in terms of painting and those steps, and where are you in the process? And what are you moving toward? Do you know? Or are you just going to try some things on? Whatever it is, it's exciting, and I can't wait to see what it's going to look like when it's all done. I know you feel that way too. Thanks for joining me for this Prayerful Pause with the Pastor. I'm Pastor Deb Swift of South Presbyterian Church in Rochester, New York. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, happy painting. God bless. Be safe. Take care. And bye for now.